So hello everyone. So today we will be discussing about one of the most important topics within ServiceNow. So this is about the data policies. So before understanding like what is data policies, I would like to dig deep. Like what are the different ways in which I can create my record in within ServiceNow. Okay. So what are the ways? So one of the ways is it can be created by integrations. It can be created by a glide record, or we can also formally known as scripting. And it can be created via email. It can be created a virtual agent. It can be created by Excel or CSV files. It can be also created by XMLs. And there are many ways in which I can create a particular record, a particular entry in a table within ServiceNow. Now, to demonstrate data policies in a more in a to help you to understand it more better, I would like to make a really one example which I would really like to showcase to you. Do you remember that if in the student case form, like which we have created, like in our one of the forms which we created, we had few UI policies. And before exploring, like I would like to make sure that we have REST API Explorer open. So this is my go-to way to explain you why we need data policy and one of the starting point of of integrations. Okay, so we will be covering each of these methods in my upcoming videos, but I would like to take you to specifically with this method. Okay, so stay tuned with me. You will be understanding everything. Okay, so in coming sessions, we'll be understanding glide recall, email, virtual agent, Excel or CSV file. But today, let's try to understand, pick up one part and try to learn why we need data policies in the first place. Okay, now to create a record or record. Okay, so to create a record, ServiceNow gives us a base. Okay, and one of the way is with the help of an integration. So you consider integration that you have some other system, or with the help of some APIs you are trying to create a record. That's all. You don't need to understand more than this as of now. But let's try to create understand one scenario. What will happen if I try to, create a record from back end rather than creating a record from front end? If I just go to front end, I can just open this form. I can just go to new. I can just go to resolve and I can just click on my resolution code and resolution note. That's quite a straightforward. But I would really, but what will happen if I can able to create, if I'm trying to create a record from the back end? Okay, so now where the entire trick or the where the entire understanding about the data policies come into picture, which I'm going to show you as now. Okay, now let's go to a REST API Explorer. This is the first step you have to do. Click on namespace, click on API definition. Let's have the API version at latest, and you just select your name, table name. So the table name which we have here is U table student event registration system. Okay, now let's search for this table. Okay, now let's try to create a record. Okay, now let's try to create a record. Okay, so I have just click on create a record, select your table, student event registration system, and that's all. That's all. Now you have to click on a builder. Now you have to click on builder. So this builder will help you to create a payload with the help of which you will going to create a record over here. Okay, now let's create a add a field. Okay, now I say that okay, my field needs to be state. My state should be a which state it should be? It should be a result which is 6. Okay, I will add 6. Let me add one more thing. Now, once my state is 6, I would like to add a short description. And I will say that okay, test test REST API. Now I will create one more thing, description. I will click on, uh, testing description. Okay. Just a simple word. Okay. Now, once we have this, entire payload well defined, if you see the payload, which is nothing but state, which is nothing but my system field, not, it doesn't take the label, it takes the name, it takes the name of the short description, it takes the description, and we have few values over here. Okay, test api, a testing description, and those things. And so that I am building a entire payload, and I will try to send this entire payload to create one record over here. Okay, so let me try to send it. I will click on OK, and I will get a response 201 created. Okay, now it means that my record is got created, and this is the link of my record. See, yeah, it does. It also gives me a link. So link is nothing but a, a link of the table API. Okay, but okay, not a link of the table API. Rather, it's a sys user record. Okay, no problem. But it gives me some record. Okay, so this is the sys ID of the record that got created. So this is nothing but the caller details, like where the caller details is there. Okay, so I will be explaining you all of this part. So this is the display value, this is the short description that we added, and so on. Okay, now let me go to the table now. Okay, now if I just refresh the table, so this is the and if I just search for the number from here, so this is the number. Okay, I will just search by the number. So this record got created. Okay, now let's try to understand what we have it in. I have my state as resolved. So this record got created. I have my state as resolved, but where is my resolution code and resolution note? Why I am able to create a record at the first place, having my state as resolved, but not filling the resolution code and resolution note. This is the biggest problem what we face when we try to create any record from backend. And that's why we use a concept called as data policies. So let's revisit our UI policy first. Okay, so there are other ways in which also you can create a record. You can create a record with these mentioned ways. Okay, there which is glide record, you can create it by email, virtual agent, but this is one of the ways which I wanted to explain you, that this is one of the ways in the backend with the help of REST API Explorer, that too with the help of table API you can create a record. Okay, so let's try to right click, configure, and click on UI policies. Now let's try to understand, make resolution code and resolution. So now a UI policy needs to be converted into a data policy if we want to avoid when state is resolved, and resolution code and resolution node should be mandatory, and I don't want my record to get created. Okay, so let's wait for a bit and let's wait for this form to get loaded. So if you can see here, we have a option to convert this into data policy. Okay, let me note it here. Not every time you will see this option within the related link to convert into data policy. But when this conversion option is visible, when it is not visible, I will explain you those things in very detail. Okay, so please bear with me for now. So in this entire video, I will be going to cover that. If I just click on convert this into data policy, okay, now I have my data policy created. This is how my data policy looks. It has ability to inherit. It means that it will work on my uh, child tables. Okay. the, the same what we explained in UI policy. Please go through the first video within this series. Okay, reverse if false we know, active we know. Apply to import set. Import set is when we try to create a field with um, record with the help of glide with the help of Excel or CSV file. Okay, so we will be exploring import set on in more detail. Apply to SOAP. It's a kind of a method in which a method of integrations only. And also we have a users UI policy on the client. You remember we have the same UI policy defined. So that's all. So if we want that this data policy and UI policy should be used as it is, then totally fine. That's why this checkbox is true. Now we have got data policy rules, and data policy rule is that data policy rule. So one thing to note here, data policy will always control mandatory and read only. Data policy will never control visibility, because visibility is something which is over the form, not something that creates from the backend. Okay, so data policy is never ever meant for visibility. If you can see here, right, you cannot see that any visibility option available for you. It's only for mandatory and read only. And this is a sure shot interview question. Please make it. So I will write all the note of it. That's all. Okay. Now I have my data policy inserted. Now let me try to create one record. I will have the same payload ready. State will be 6. Short description as a test API, description as testing description. Now if I try to create a send the click on send button and I will click on OK. Now see what error I got. 403 forbidden. Reason why? Because of data policy exception. And it thrown that resolution note and resolution code cannot be should be mandatory. You should pass resolution code and resolution note. And that's how you can control your insertion within the form. Okay. Uh, Whenever we have any that can align with your UI policy as well. Okay. So there are other ways, other scenarios in which we use data policies, but this is one of the use cases which I really wanted to explain with regards to data policy. If I click on plus, I will click here and I will click on resolution code. This is a string. Okay, resolution code. Let's try to understand. Let's try to copy it from here. Solution provided, known error. And resolution note. Test. Now I have got this entire payload created. Okay. So where state is 6, short description is test description. The reason, see, I would have was I can able to explain it with the help of glide record and so on, but I didn't want to drag at that point. Okay, so just wanted to keep the thing simple. That's why I'm explaining in this way. But if you want a glide record or other explanation, I am ready to help. Now let me try to create a send this API. Now click on OK. Now it got created. Why? Because we passed resolution code and resolution note. Okay. Well, if I just copy this, so which record got created? Let me go to REST API Explorer. I can see 1046, 1046, 1046. This is the record. Okay. Or I can bring the two new fields created and updated. See, if I just sort Z2A, this is the latest record that got created. If I just click on this record, and I can see my state and resolution code and resolution are getting filled. And this is all about your data policy. The only field you can control with data policy is uh, mandatory and read only. Now let's try to understand one more important concept. If I just click on event, see something related to visibility I can see. Okay. And let me try to pull the UI policy controlling this behavior. If I just duplicate the form, okay, and let me, right click, configure. I won't, I can see I can directly configure the data policy, but let me click on UI policies. Okay, this is the categories, event, display event, and make event field. Okay. Now, if I just click on this advanced view, okay, let me click on this advanced view for now. Now, here, if you see, you cannot see any related link stating that convert this UI policy into data policy. Reason being that the visibility was came into picture. So, so hence you were not able to convert this particular UI policy into data policy. So let us write our first observation. Okay. So let's try to, note our first few observations, and then we will, add a point. Okay. First observation is for visibility, data policies is not available. Okay. Now let's try to our second observation. Now let me pull up the UI policy that deals with the related list. Let me go back to our policies, and let me just, close this window. Hide attachment related list. Okay, this is the one. Hmm. Now let me click on, we have got UI policy related list action, and I can see the convert this to data policy. But can I really convert this? Okay, I doubt. If I just click on the convert to the data policy, see, even though the data policy got created, okay, we cannot see any data policy rules. So even though you have that particular part, visible for, related list, but the data policy rules won't be visible to you. So in a nutshell, you cannot create a data policy, even though that link will be visible to you, but the data policy rules won't be visible. So this you have to keep in mind. So a second observation which I would really like to note here is that, okay, when controlling related list only, data policy rules will not apply. Okay, that's all. Now let's try to understand third point. Okay, now what will happen when we have a UI policy for a specific view? Will my data policy work in that? So this is one of the interesting use cases which we want to understand. Okay, now let me go to resolution code and notes mandate. Okay, let me go to, same old, huh, close note should be visible. Okay, those part. Hmm. Now again, we are controlling a visibility, but let me just click here visibility and make it to leave alone. Okay, to understand this concept very well. And let me click on advanced view. And now I will click on, see, now I can see this convert to data policy, right? Let me click on global, uncheck the global, and let me apply this for a specific view. And if I just apply it for a China view and I to try to save the form, see, it's still in the advanced view. Okay. Uh, Now let's try to understand. It's in China view. Now you cannot see the convert to data policy link. Okay. Now you cannot see the convert to data policy. So one more observation, while what we can write over here is that when we have UI policy for specific view, you cannot convert to data policy. Okay, cool. Now, okay, so these are the three observation which we got. So visibility, for visibility, the UI policy is not available. For controlling the related list, the data policy will not apply. And when we have UI policy for specific, you cannot convert to data policy. Now, if I just go here and let me click the global checkbox and try to save the form. And let me click on script. And if I just click on run script, okay, now you can see the convert to data policy because the view was created. And if I have just script checkbox as true, we can also, create a script on UI policies as well, which we will be, understanding in the upcoming lecture series. If I just save the form, okay. Now when we go to when to apply and when we go to the related list, now you cannot see the convert to data policy link. So it means that when we have, or the fourth point, when we have script checkbox enabled, we cannot convert the UI policy into data policy. So hence, how can I define my data policy? So what is my data policy? So my data policy is nothing but used to make validations from all the sources, including form, we use data policies. Okay, got it? Now what to make form fields mandatory and read only. That's all. You can convert only these two with the help of data policies. Okay. This is the entire data policy that you will ever learn. Only this much tutorial is well enough to understand data policies. All right. Now can we create data policy directly into our form? Yes, we can. So if I just close this window, right click over the form. So hope you understood, right? Data policy is nothing but it is used to make validation from all the sources, including the form as a source. We use data policy to make form fields mandatory and read only. Okay, so if I just, let me create a one data policy. Okay, now the use case will be like, let's say that uh, when my impact is high and my priority is high, we want that channel field should be mandatory. Okay, so this is one use case I will like to demonstrate now. I will right click over the okay, I will right click over the form, configure data policies, and I will click on new. Okay, so we can write that make channel field mandatory when impact and urgency is high. Okay, when this is my high, make it to 100. So I will click on impact is high and my urgency, or I can say my priority is critical. So can be also done. Okay. So now I don't want it to use into my child tables. I want to apply it on all the sources, including my integrations as well. SOAP is one of the way of integration. Now I want to use it as a UI policy over client as well. That's why I have this checkbox as true. Let me save the form. Now I will write my rules. I will click on new and I will make a channel field. I will make it mandatory as true and click on submit. And as a use case for your own homework or for your understanding, create a data policy rules for a read only field. Let's say you can, explore that on your own. I will click on this. Let me reload the form, refresh the form. Okay. Now I will click on impact as high, urgency as high, and my channel field what mandatory, because I have this UI policy to use this as UI policy. If I just, uncheck this and let me try to save the form. And I just refresh the form, reload the form. And now if I just click on high and I just click on, I cannot, the mandatory is not visible. But if I just go ahead and create a payload over here, okay, let me remove the resolution node and let me remove the state as of now. And if I just click over here, where my impact is high and my urgency is also 1, I will say, and I will just click on send. See, 403 is not ordered. Why? Data policy exception, the following fields are mandatory. So you can use it as a data policy, even though you cannot see the UI policy. But to use it as a UI policy, you click on the UI policy over client and you can save the form. This can be now, it can work as UI policy as well. Okay, that's all. So this is the window what we are showing over here. Now just remove this. And also you can directly convert this to UI policy with the help of this related link. Okay. So that's all for today, guys. So if you really like my tutorial, if you really love my work, so you can hit the like button. You can subscribe to my channel. So so this is the end of the entire series for the data policies and UI policies. So in our next series, for starting this week itself, we will be understanding more on APIs, client side APIs and scripting. Okay. Thank you. Have a nice day.